So now that we've done your 5 to 10 minutes and you guys have done your post, Christopher, what would your response be for this?
Well, I think initially the first thing you're always going to want to do is try to confirm the information that's out there. So I would want to get all the stakeholders within the company involved in this, the legal team, whoever the developers were, our social media folks, probably, presidents, CEOs. We need to get everyone in a room and confirm if this is correct. Do we know exactly, how many people this affected? It's saying, 109 documented pregnancies over the last 2 weeks. Is that correct? And as soon as we know that is true, we need to start developing a plan to respond to the questions and reaction that we're getting on social media. So what I would try to do is very quickly come up with at least a brief statement. That could be something as simple as, we're aware of this issue and we are working to, confirm the information, and we'll have, further information for you soon. And at least have something as a placeholder initially to let people know that the company is aware of what's going on and is working to respond. And that's just because, again, you don't want to wait too long, especially on social media. If it looks like you're not doing anything, things started to spin out of control and get worse. I think the second thing we would need to do is come up with a official statement, probably a press release, and possibly, if this is starting to blow up outside of social media and we're getting calls from newspapers or even, television stations, that this might be something even bigger than just social media, we'd want to put out a statement, possibly even have a video or quick press conference from the company with a little bit more detail saying, yes, this did happen. We are working to find out exactly why it happened, because I think that's really one of the things people are really going to want to know is, we're looking into why this happened. And again, as the PowerPoint you had pointed out early, get out there early. If as soon as you know it's your fault, you're going to want to apologize. You're going to say that, you're deeply, deeply sorry for what happened. And that, I would suggest reaching out to the people who were affected by this and saying we're going to reach out to these people and we're going to talk to them and work with them. We're going to find out how this happened to make sure it never happens again, and let them know that as we find that information out, that we will continue to fill in everybody on the information through our social media and through our website. So in the initial time, that's kind of what I'd want to do the quickest. That would also include having someone, whoever does your social media, monitoring your social media, maybe occasionally responding to people on Twitter or people on Facebook who are posting this, who are saying, I was affected, or asking about this, especially people with a lot of followers, people who are verified, who have that little blue check mark, because that's really how stuff gets kicked into viral gear, is when, celebrities or people with big followings find this stuff. So I'd want to reach out to them, even with just those initial sort of talking points, and say, we're aware of the problem. We're putting out a statement. Once the statement is out, you can use stuff from that statement to respond to people and say, again, we're very sorry that this happened. We're doing everything we can to find out why, and contacting the people affected and move forward.
Sounds good. And then what about, do you see any ramifications of saying I'm sorry? Does that put you into any kind of like legal issues? Actually, if you apologize, are you admitting fault?
Well, I think that's part of the discussion you probably want to have in those initial meetings within the company is, this is something that you're going to want to have your legal on. And and that's a question I would ask them, is saying, if we come out and say, yes, this is our fault and we're sorry to these people that it happened, does that, set us up for legal ramifications? If your legal team comes back and says, yeah, we cannot say anything about that, we cannot take any blame, I still think, in the interest of being human and trying to sympathize with people that are saying they're affected by this, you still need to come up with something showing sympathy for the people who say they're affected. And again, that's one of the reasons why we try to get all those stakeholders together in a room and run that messaging by them, to ask them, what are the possible ramifications of us saying this? Because, as a public relations person, my goals and what I want to do may be a little bit different from the goals of a legal team, who obviously want to protect the company from liability. As a PR person, I want to do that, but I also know what are these best practices for relating to people and not making the situation worse and not making public opinion worse.
Right. So the bottom line on this thing is not to make things worse, right?
Yeah.
necessarily admit there's your guilt, but because you're still looking into it, but doing something is what's required.
That's the thing, is really having that balance. You want to respond quickly with accurate facts that will let people know that you acknowledge what's going on. That is something that the company is okay with putting out there. And at the same time, you don't want to run on any assumptions and end up going with, on your don'ts list, a knee-jerk reaction, which, like